He was talking today, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, about Connor Goldson. There's been the rumour machine has been in operation today, suggesting that he turned down the offer of an extension at Rangers. He was wanting to head back to English football. This was the manager's response.
No. Spoke to Ross about it today. He's still talking with his agents, so nothing new. I think we have to say still on speaking terms with the agent, so we have to wait. Of course, I saw reports he rejected the offer, but that is untrue. They're still talking, so hopefully we can have some more news in the coming weeks or months.
How important do you think it is, Neil, to hang on to Connor Goldson? I mean, obviously, it depends on how much money he's looking for. That's a big factor in the equation.
Yeah, and obviously Rangers have a strict wage structure that they want to stick by, and if they think that Connor Goldson's asking for too much, then they stick by that and they reject it or whatever he's looking for. But he's a big player for Rangers. He's hardly missed a game. He was a huge player last season. He started this campaign a wee bit inconsistent, which is a bit worrying. Obviously came out with the comments after the semi-final again, which is worrying. You just don't know if his head's in it. But being out of contract and that can take your concentration away. It is a worrying time for players when they don't know where their future is. So that might be in the back of his mind, affecting his performances. So the sooner they get it tied up, either way, if they decide that he's staying or he's going to go, then probably the better for both the player and the club.
Because he is the constant, isn't he, in central defence for Rangers. I mean, currently Balogun is out on the way back. Helander's been out for a long time. Katic is out away on loan. He is one of the first names on that team sheet, isn't he, Connor Goldson? What are you thinking, Craigs, about what's going on at the moment? And is he being? Can you see it in his game at the moment that in his head he's wondering what's happening here?
I think sometimes because there's speculation around a player, every time he makes a mistake or he's in a wrong position, people automatically think it's because he's thinking about his contract. He's out of contract, it's affecting his game. It's not. Sometimes you just end up in wrong positions, but because the speculation is going around about it and he hasn't signed his contract. And I said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't mind him coming out and questioning players' hunger, because quite clearly something needed to happen after that Hibs game. Something needed to be said to try and spark people into action, because when he played Sparta Prague a few days later, it was a completely different team, as in energy-wise and appetite. Everybody then is focusing on, are they hungry? Are they going to run about? Do they have the desire? So he brought everybody to the fore. And if anybody didn't show that on the night, fingers would have been pointed at them. So I don't mind as an experienced player coming out and trying to cajole his teammates. He was probably, it sounded, during the interview, he was trying to deflect it away from himself. But sometimes you need the older players in the dressing room to say something.
But I think these things can be said in-house. I don't think he needed to say that in public, because it just sort of has questions then asked to every single individual. And there's people in that team, and I know boys like Al McGregor, Stephen Davis, they're 100% focused, they're 100% hungry to win everything. Every day in training they turn up, they give it everything. So he's questioning them, people who I know that doesn't apply to. So if he's got them issues, he needs to call it that in the dressing room behind closed doors. I would imagine there would have been team meetings. I don't think you need to become in public with things like that. I just don't think it does anyone any favours.
I'm not sure it would have the same effect. If you have it in house, listen, we've had many arguments in a dressing room, you walk away, everybody shakes hands and gets on with it, whereas I think that left that lingering. He probably wasn't talking about Alan McGregor and Stephen Davis, so it must have been a few. He was wanting to have a little, it was just getting to him. He thought something needs to be said.
He wanted it out there, didn't he?
He wanted it out there just to try and spark people. I think he wanted it out there to try and spark people into action, because he was so disappointed with the result that they could have got the cup final. If Rangers go on and win the league title this season and win the Scottish Cup, people will look back in that moment and think that was the moment where things may have turned a little bit, where he was brave enough to say it or stupid enough to say it. Who knows come the end of the season.
Alan McGregor was actually asked his reaction to it, wasn't it? And he said, I don't read any papers and I don't hear things. That was one of his quotes as well. But I mean, there would have been a pretty spectacular reaction to that, wouldn't there?
Yeah, listen, I don't think
you know that Rangers dressing room.
I think there would have been a lot of players who wouldn't have been happy with what he said. Because I know the type of player that you need to be to play for Rangers. You've got to have a very strong mentality. There's no way you cross that white line on a Saturday or a Sunday and don't give 100% and don't go out to win and do your best. Obviously things happen, and obviously it doesn't always happen, but I just think in a defeat like that, I think it's up to the press officer or one of the coaching staff or the manager to pick the right player to do the right interview after that game. And I would have gone with a more experienced Al McGregor or Stephen Davis, who's not going to say anything controversial,
or
who's just going to say the right thing, or the captain who's going to say the right thing for that right moment. It was a poor performance, really bad defeat, and on top of that, your Conor Golson's going out there and he's making controversial statements. I just don't think they needed it at that time. And as Stephen said, it might give them that little kick up the backside that they needed. But I still think you could have that kick up the backside in the dressing room or in the training ground by the right people. And if Conor Golson's got a problem with someone, he needs to deal with that. Pull the person aside, or have a word with the manager and say, you need to have a go at this person. He needs a wee kick up the backside because he's not giving us what we want.
Tell Alexa to launch Go Radio or listen on the Go Radio app.